The galaxy had believed Earth to be small and unimportant. To alien leaders, humans were nothing more than a young species, loud but weak, curious but fragile. Their world was rich with oceans, forests, and minerals, but their people were divided, scattered across continents, busy with their own conflicts. To the alien alliance, humanity looked like an easy target. They thought this would be a short war, a war to remind the galaxy that resistance against the great powers was foolish. They never imagined what would come next. The first strike was not a warning. It was a declaration of extermination. From the black void of space, alien warships appeared above Earth without mercy. Cities that had never seen war before were drowned in fire. Skies over New York, Shanghai, and Lagos turned red as energy beams cut through towers. Oceans boiled as plasma fell from orbit. Millions cried out, believing the end had arrived. For the aliens, it was only the beginning of conquest. But on the ground, something else was happening. Humans, shocked and broken, refused to collapse. Soldiers, police, doctors, and even ordinary citizens picked up weapons, defended streets, and saved strangers. Alien commanders expected panic and surrender, yet everywhere they looked, they saw resistance. A farmer in Brazil took down a landing craft with nothing but stolen explosives. A group of students in Paris used hacked communication systems to jam alien signals. Firefighters in Tokyo rescued hundreds trapped under burning rubble, refusing to abandon their city even when death was certain. Humanity was not trained for interstellar war, but they were trained for survival. Alien fleets grew frustrated. They had destroyed entire civilizations before. They had crushed worlds with one decisive blow. But Earth was different. Every street turned into a battlefield, every mountain into a hiding place. When an alien patrol thought they had secured a city, human fighters would rise again from underground shelters. The invaders felt a kind of resistance they had never seen before. It was not about weapons. It was about willpower. In the first week of invasion, humans suffered unimaginable losses. Entire regions were lost, millions displaced, nations falling silent. Yet instead of breaking apart, humanity united. Countries that had once argued and fought now shared technology, intelligence, and soldiers. The world that the aliens thought was divided became something they had never expected. A single people fighting as one. On the third day of the war, something happened that shook the galaxy. A small human fleet built from old satellites, retired rockets, and experimental ships launched into space to strike back. They were not powerful. Their weapons were crude compared to alien cannons. Yet they managed to destroy 2 alien destroyers orbiting Earth. The galaxy watched in silence. How could a species with no interstellar navy take down ships designed to dominate entire systems? The answer was simple. Humans fought as if they had nothing to lose. The alien commanders began to argue among themselves. Some said the humans were only lucky, that they would soon run out of strength. Others warned that this war would be more dangerous than they had imagined. Reports from the ground told strange stories. Soldiers fighting until their last breath, civilians sacrificing themselves to protect others, and even children carrying messages across ruined cities under fire. The invaders could not understand it. To them, war was about numbers and firepower. To humans, war was about survival. One battle in particular became legend. Over the city of Johannesburg, an alien mothership descended to crush resistance. But human engineers, who had been silent for days, revealed their plan. They had hacked into the alien ship's power grid, using nothing but stolen equipment and improvised computers. With a single surge of energy, they caused the giant ship to collapse into the ground. The explosion was seen for miles. Thousands died in the fire, but the symbol of victory echoed across the planet. If humans could bring down a mothership, then maybe they could win. The alien alliance sent a warning to the galaxy. Humanity was dangerous. But it was too late. The choice to attack Earth had already been made. Every world that had once mocked humans now looked at them with fear. In the ruins of burning cities, the seeds of vengeance had been planted. That first strike was meant to end Earth. Instead, it awakened something the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity was no longer just a species on a small blue planet. They had become survivors of the greatest betrayal, fighters who refused to kneel, and warriors whose anger burned brighter than the weapons falling from the sky. The war had only just begun, but one truth had already been written. The aliens had made their greatest mistake, and as smoke rose into the heavens, as survivors gathered their strength, one whisper spread across the broken earth, a whisper that would soon echo into the stars. They wanted war. Now they will see what it means to fight humanity. The first strike had left Earth scarred, but it did not leave Earth broken. The aliens believed that destroying cities and burning landscapes would force humanity to surrender. Instead, the chaos forged something the galaxy had never witnessed before: unity. For the first time in centuries, the old rivalries between nations disappeared. Borders meant nothing now. Every survivor carried the same mission: defend Earth, whatever the cost. High above the planet, the alien fleets tightened their grip. Their commanders sent reports filled with confidence. They claimed humanity was on the edge of collapse, that only days remained before Earth would surrender. Yet inside their private chambers, whispers of doubt began to spread. Scouts returned with strange stories. Stories of human soldiers who fought without fear, engineers who built weapons out of scrap metal, and civilians who refused to bow even when surrounded. The aliens had waged wars before, but never against a species that treated every battle like their last. It was in the shadows of a ruined world that the turning point began. Beneath the smoking remains of Moscow, human engineers and scientists gathered in underground bunkers. They had lost their homes, their families, their cities, but not their determination. Using scraps of alien wreckage, pieces of destroyed satellites, and stolen enemy technology, they built something new. Weapons that combined human creativity with alien power. Systems that the invaders had never expected could even exist. When the aliens attacked again, they met resistance unlike before. In the skies above South America, human fighter jets, long considered outdated, suddenly turned invisible. Modified with stolen alien cloaking devices, they ambushed warships that believed the skies were safe. Entire squadrons of alien craft were torn apart before they even realized they were under attack. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humanity had taken alien technology in days, something that took other species centuries to understand, and turned it into weapons. The aliens called it impossible. Humanity called it survival. On the ground, new strategies emerged. Where alien troops marched in heavy columns, humans used speed. Where alien ships controlled the air, humans hid in the earth. They built traps in tunnels, flooded valleys, and lured enemy machines into narrow streets. Every loss was studied, every mistake corrected. The invaders expected chaos, but instead they faced a species learning faster than any they had seen. The first great victory came in Africa. In the desert outside Cairo, an alien command ship descended to crush the last defenders. Thousands of civilians stood in its shadow, waiting for death. But the human resistance had prepared something the invaders could not imagine. They had built a railgun, an enormous weapon made from stolen metal, powered by the city's last surviving reactors. It was unstable, dangerous, and it could fire only once. Yet when the mothership lowered itself, the humans pulled the trigger. The sky tore open as a streak of light slammed through the alien ship, splitting it in two. The explosion lit up the desert night. Seen by satellites across the solar system, for the first time, the galaxy gasped. Humanity had not only survived, they had destroyed the heart of an alien fleet. Messages spread like fire across alien networks. Commanders began to question their orders. Soldiers muttered about Earth being cursed. Entire fleets slowed their advance, haunted by fear that this war was no longer certain. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people stood taller. The loss of cities still burned in their memories, but now they carried proof that victory was possible. Survivors who once hid in the shadows stepped forward to fight. Scientists worked day and night, refusing sleep. Soldiers carried the weight of entire nations on their shoulders, but walked forward without hesitation. Humanity had been struck but not defeated. The turning point had come. In the silence of space, alien leaders argued. Some demanded the use of planet-killer weapons to end Earth quickly. Others warned that such a move would only awaken deeper hatred, not just from humans, but from other species watching closely. Whispers of rebellion spread through the galaxy. If humans could stand against the most powerful alliance, perhaps others could as well. The galaxy had hoped for a quick victory. Instead, they found themselves staring at something far worse, a war that would change everything. For humanity, the choice was already made. They would not stop. They would not kneel. Every attack only sharpened their will. Every scar only reminded them what was at stake. The aliens thought they were fighting a small planet. But in truth, they were fighting a force no weapon could destroy. Humanity's anger, humanity's hope, humanity's refusal to vanish. And so, the second stage of the war began. The invaders had unleashed their power. Humanity had answered with something greater. The galaxy realized with dread that the war they had started would not end with Earth's fall. No, the war would end with the galaxy's fate written in fire. The war had already lasted longer than the aliens predicted. What they thought would be a swift extermination was now dragging into weeks, then months. Every battle they fought on Earth seemed to leave them weaker, not stronger. The humans refused to collapse. Their spirit was like iron, and every strike only sharpened it further. The alien alliance began to whisper among themselves. Perhaps there was something more dangerous hidden within humanity, something no fleet could destroy. That suspicion soon turned into fear. From the ashes of destroyed cities, rumors spread. Alien commanders reported seeing strange signals, patterns in human communications that did not match ordinary tactics. Scouts spoke of soldiers who fought beyond exhaustion, of leaders who never surrendered even when surrounded. There were whispers that humans possessed a secret weapon, something waiting in the shadows. At first, the Alliance dismissed it as fear, but then the victories began to appear too calculated, too precise. Humanity was not only resisting, they were adapting faster than any species had ever adapted before. Deep underground, far below the shattered ruins of Berlin, a secret project was underway. It had started as desperation, an attempt by scattered human scientists to do the impossible. They were working with scraps, alien wreckage, fallen satellites, stolen cores, ripped from enemy machines. But what they built was not just a weapon. It was a mirror of their own nature. It was resilience turned into machinery, sacrifice turned into energy. Anger turned into fire. They called it Project Revenant. Unlike alien superweapons that relied on sheer force, Revenant was designed around human thinking, unpredictable, relentless, and willing to risk everything. It was not the largest ship. It was not the strongest cannon. But it was alive in a way alien war machines could never be. It could shift strategies mid-battle, change its systems in moments, and even use parts of its enemies against them. Where aliens built perfection, humans built chaos, and chaos became their strength. The first time Revenant was unleashed, it changed the war. In orbit above the Pacific, an alien fleet tightened its noose around Earth. 20 warships surrounded the planet, preparing for the final strike. The galaxy expected humanity to finally break. Instead, Revenant emerged from the shadows of Earth's moon. It was small compared to the giants that faced it, a patchwork ship built from human steel and alien wreckage. The aliens laughed at the sight of it, thinking it nothing more than a desperate attempt. But laughter turned into silence when the ship moved. Revenant struck like lightning. It hacked into enemy navigation systems mid-flight, forcing ships to fire on each other. It released weapons made from torn enemy reactors, blasts the aliens had no defense against. And when one warship tried to crush it, Revenant split apart, scattering into smaller modules that regrouped seconds later to strike from multiple directions. What looked like madness was in truth human genius, turning weakness into strength, turning scraps into victory. Within hours, Half the alien fleet was gone. The others fled in fear. Humanity had not just defended their planet, they had hunted their hunters. Across the galaxy, species that once mocked humans now stared in silence. If this was what Earth could do in months, what would they become in years? But the true weapon was not Revenant alone. It was the spirit behind it. Every scientist who worked on it knew they might never see their families again. Every soldier who fought beside it accepted death before battle. Humanity's hidden weapon was sacrifice, a will to burn so others might live. The aliens could not understand it. To them, life was something to protect at all costs. To humans, life was something to give, if it meant victory for those who remained. Alien leaders panicked. They declared that Earth was cursed, that fighting humans would bring only ruin. Some even began to question the wisdom of war itself. But the choice had already been made, and now the galaxy had to face the truth. Humanity's hidden weapon was not a single ship, not a single machine, but the unshakable truth that no matter how many times they fell, they would rise again, stronger, fiercer, and far more dangerous, in the silence of the stars. After the wreckage of the great battle drifted into the void, the message was clear. The galaxy had signed its death sentence the moment it chose war with Earth. Humanity was no longer just defending. Humanity was becoming something greater, something unstoppable, and for the first time, the galaxy felt fear, not of humanity's weapons, but of humanity itself. The galaxy had always believed in the strength of numbers. Dozens of alien races, united under one banner, had waged wars across the stars for centuries. Their fleets were vast, their weapons unmatched, their pride unshaken. But now their unity was cracking. The war against Earth had cost them more than ships and soldiers. It had cost them the belief that they were invincible. The turning point came slowly, like cracks spreading across glass. At first, alien leaders argued behind closed doors. Some claimed the humans were only lucky. Others whispered that they were cursed. A few even admitted the truth. This war could not be won. Reports from every front showed the same pattern. Humanity was learning faster than anyone expected. Every ambush, every trap, every stolen piece of alien tech turned against them. The invaders had unleashed a storm they could not contain. On distant worlds, alien citizens began to question why their sons and daughters were being sent to die on a planet so small, so far away. They saw footage of human resistance, men and women fighting, even when the ground burned beneath them, children carrying supplies through ruins, survivors refusing to kneel. Entire populations began to ask the question their leaders feared most. If humans can resist the greatest alliance in the galaxy, why can we not resist too? The rebellion began quietly. Small colonies refused to send more troops. Supply lines faltered. A governor on the rim declared independence, inspired by Earth's defiance. What was once the most powerful alliance in the stars now trembled, not because of Earth's weapons, but because of Earth's example. Meanwhile, humanity grew stronger. The Revenant ship had become a symbol, a phantom of war that haunted the aliens wherever they went. But it was more than one ship now. Across hidden bases, more hybrids of human and alien design were being built. Smaller, faster, more unpredictable. Every wreckage left behind by the Alliance became raw material for the next weapon. Every drop of human blood spilled became fuel for vengeance. The great collapse came during the siege of Titan. The alien alliance had gathered its largest fleet yet, hundreds of ships, enough to overwhelm any star system. They planned to crush humanity's growing presence on Saturn's moon, to show the galaxy that resistance was still hopeless. Instead, they walked into a trap. Humans had learned the enemy's patterns. They knew how the aliens thought, how they moved, how they commanded. When the fleet approached Titan, hidden mines, built from repurposed alien reactors, exploded from the ice. Human ships appeared from the shadows of Saturn's rings, cloaked and silent until the perfect moment. And then came the allies humanity had gained. Alien species, once enslaved by the Alliance, now free, now armed, now standing beside humans. Together, they fell upon the invaders with fury. The battle lasted days. Alien commanders screamed for order, but their fleets shattered from inside. Ships deserted mid-fight, refusing to die for a cause they no longer believed in. Others turned against their own, joining the human side. By the time the smoke cleared, the once proud fleet was gone. Titan remained free, and the galaxy knew the truth. The alliance was crumbling. Back on Earth, survivors wept, not just for victory, but for what it meant. Humanity had never wanted conquest. They had only wanted to survive. But now survival had grown into something larger. The galaxy was looking to them, not as victims, but as leaders. Humanity had become a beacon for the oppressed, a nightmare for the tyrants, and a storm no one could stop. The alien alliance tried to hold on. They executed deserters, silenced rebels, and declared that humanity would be erased. But their words rang hollow. Fear spread through their ranks. Soldiers who had once marched proudly into battle now hesitated, looking over their shoulders, wondering if death waited in the shadows. Leaders who had once boasted of crushing Earth now sat in silence, knowing their empire was dying. The fall of the alliance was not a single moment. It was 1,000 small defeats, 1,000 whispered doubts, 1,000 stolen victories by a species that refused to vanish. Humanity had done the impossible. They had broken the greatest power in the galaxy without ever leaving their own system. And yet, deep in the silence of the stars, humanity knew this was only the beginning. The alliance was dying, but its death throes would be violent. More battles would come, more blood would be spilled. But the outcome was already written. The galaxy had chosen war with Earth, and in that choice, they had signed their own death sentence. The galaxy had begun the war with arrogance. They thought they were writing humanity's ending. But as the smoke of battle spread from one star system to another, it became clear that the war had not ended humanity. It had ended the galaxy's illusion of safety. What began as a strike against a single planet was now unraveling the order of the stars themselves. The alien alliance still existed in name, but its power was dust. Its fleets were scattered, its generals silenced, its colonies rebelling. Every victory the alliance once claimed had turned hollow, and every loss carved their empire into smaller and weaker pieces. Across the galaxy, leaders spoke of peace, but behind their words was only fear. They all knew the truth. The war was no longer about conquest. It was about survival, and not theirs. For humanity, survival had been the only goal at the beginning. But the war had changed them. The first strikes had scarred their world, but also united it. They had built weapons from wreckage, allies from enemies, and victories from ashes. Now humanity stood on the edge of something greater than survival. They stood on the edge of power. The final blow came when the alien High Council, desperate and broken, launched one last assault. They gathered the fragments of their fleets, called back deserters with threats and bribes, and forged a single armada. Their plan was to erase Earth completely, to burn away every trace of humanity before the galaxy lost faith in their rule forever. It was the largest force ever assembled in galactic history. Thousands of ships, enough firepower to shatter planets, converged on the solar system. They expected to crush Earth beneath sheer weight, to overwhelm humans with numbers too great to resist. But they forgot one truth. Humanity had never fought with numbers. When the Armada reached Earth, they did not find a broken planet. They found a fortress. Earth's orbit was lined with weapons built from alien wreckage, cannons carved from asteroids, fleets of hybrid ships armed with stolen technology. Around Saturn and Jupiter, cloaked resistance fighters waited in silence, their ships hidden among the gas giant storms. The Revenant itself stood ready, surrounded by a swarm of smaller vessels, each one forged from sacrifice and fury. The battle began with fire. The alien armada rained destruction across Earth's defenses, but humanity did not falter. Every weapon lost was replaced by another. Every fleet destroyed was answered with new strikes from the shadows. Human pilots threw themselves into battles they knew they could not survive, carving paths for others to follow. Alien ships fell one after another, torn apart not by superior power, but by relentless will. And then, as the armada staggered, the final trap was sprung. Hidden in the asteroid belt, human engineers had built something the galaxy had never seen, a weapon that used gravity itself. When activated, it tore through the enemy fleet, dragging ships into one another, crushing vessels into fragments of burning metal. The sky became a graveyard, lit by fire and broken stars. The last of the alien commanders tried to flee, but there was nowhere left to run. Humanity had turned their own system into a weapon. Earth did not just survive. Earth conquered the very force that had come to erase it. When the battle ended, silence fell across the galaxy. The Great Alliance was gone. Its fleets shattered, its leaders dead, its colonies free. Humanity stood victorious, not as conquerors, but as survivors who had outlasted the most powerful empire the stars had ever known. Yet victory carried weight. The humans looked at what they had done and understood a terrible truth. The galaxy had brought this death sentence upon itself. They had chosen war. They had chosen to make humanity their enemy. And now the galaxy would never be the same again. No one doubted what came next. Every species that had watched the war unfold now carried the same thought: never provoke humanity again. They were no longer the weak planet on the edge of the stars. They were the storm, the fire, the reminder that survival, when pushed to its limit, could become the most powerful weapon in existence. In the ruins of the fallen armada, as human ships drifted among burning wreckage, one truth echoed across every star system: the galaxy had written its own fate. The war against humanity was the war that ended them. The death sentence had been signed the moment the first strike fell upon Earth, and humanity, scarred but unbroken, stood ready to carve its own place among the stars, forever remembered, forever feared.